So, good evening again. As usual, I would like to start with the motivations. Again, try to relax and try to settle down your mind. By focusing on your breath for a while. Then we can reflect and contemplate that as long as we are controlled by our mind and our mind controlled by our own defilement, delusions, then there is no real peace and happiness in our heart. No matter where you are, with whom you are, no matter what your status are, no matter how rich, powerful you are, there is absolutely no peace in your heart. And it is those defilements that tied us in the samsara world. And it is those defilements which obstruct us from actualizing our full potential. Therefore, we have to try all our best to reduce and minimize and gradually and eventually eliminate all those defilements, all the obscurations. And not only just to find peace and happiness in our mind, but in order to help all other sentient beings to free themselves from their own defilement and their delusion, obscurations. So to be able to do that for oneself and for others, in the most beneficial, helpful way, I must achieve the fully enlightened state as soon as possible. And for that, I have to actualize and fully develop all the realizations, especially highest level of wisdom and the awakening mind of Bodhicitta. And to be able to do that, one must reflect, contemplate, meditate, and practice. Correctly and continuously. And for that, we have to be reminded of those practices all the time. And we try to remind ourselves of those practices by listening to the teachings, reading, engaging discussions with others, and reflecting, contemplating again and again, over and over. For that very reason, I am going to listen and engage in reflection, contemplation. May our time here be cause and conditions to remind and to inspire us to practice, and reduce and minimize those delusion, defilements, and increases those positive, helpful thoughts, feelings, emotions. Thereby fulfilling the highest purpose of oneself and others. So then we try to do the efficient Bodhicitta prayers. Sangye chodam soki chonam la chanju patu dane kyapsu che dagi choshe ki beso nam ki dola penche sangye dubash Sangye Chodan Soki Chonam La Janchu Padu Dani Gyab Dagi Shushe Gibe Sonam Gi Dola Penje Sangye Duba Sangye Chodan Soki Chonam La Janchu Padu Dani Gyab Sochi Dagi Shushe Gibe Sonam Gi Dola Penje Sangye Duba 강제 도전이 손에 다 던져 방매제 담배 전에 던져배 고담 될라 차차로 So in order to achieve our highest potential, the fully enlightened state, we need the highest level of wisdom and the awakening mind of bodhicitta, induced by great compassion and love. And also in our everyday life, to have a more peaceful, more happy life, to have a better relationship with the people whom we encounter in our life. We need both compassion and the wisdom. The more we have those qualities, the compassion and the wisdom, the more we find better skillful means to interact with others and oneself, and thereby having a better relationship, and thereby more peace, more happiness in oneself, and producing that kind of better environment for others around us. And all the Buddha's teachings, if you kind of summarize and contains, it contains in those all the teachings, basically directly, indirectly, leads towards cultivating that loving kindness, compassion, the bodhicitta mind, and the wisdom. And so this today, the text that we are going through, the 8 verses of mind training, also cover those 2 subjects, the bodhicitta or compassions and the wisdom. And is one of very popular texts, very short but very text of one of those lojong practices, training your mind to cultivate and to increase and improve your loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta mind, and the wisdom. And also through that, these practices, how we can keep our mind more stable and more peace when we are faced with adversities, difficulties, challenges in our life. That those situations and those who create such situations, so that or their action and behavior does not really disturb our mind and create more suffering and more negative karma. So how can we keep our mind more calm, more peace, despite all these challenges, difficulties, adversities? So I think these verses try to cover those subjects. I was looking for another words, but I couldn't remember. So, so the first 7 verses is concerning the compassion, the bodhicitta mind, and the last verses 8 is concerns with the wisdom. In terms of that, if we divide into those two, so the first verses determine to obtain the greatest possible benefit from all sentient beings, who are more precious than wish-fulfilling jewel. I shall hold them most dear at all time. So determine to obtain the greatest possible benefit, which is to the greatest possible benefit for oneself and others, is achieving that fully enlightened state, fully awakened state. Okay? So if we can achieve that fully enlightened, fully awakened state, then we can fulfill highest benefit and purpose for not just oneself but all sentient beings. And that highest benefit of that fully enlightened state comes by relying on sentient beings, so from sentient beings. So therefore, those sentient beings are more precious than wish-fulfilling jewels. And because they are more precious than wish-fulfilling jewel, which can, if there is a wish-fulfilling jewel, and if you kind of make wishes, where all your temporary wishes of happiness of this life or physical comfort can be fulfilled. So there are even more. So even though maybe at the moment we might not have that wish-fulfilling jewel, maybe the dollar, the money, is the wish-fulfilling jewel. Okay? So here it is saying sentient beings are more precious than billions of the dollar. Okay? Billions or trillions of the dollars. And because of that, then I shall hold them most dear at all time. So this is a training to see the kindness of other sentient beings. By seeing and feeling the kindness of other sentient beings, then we try to develop sense of dearness, closeness with each sentient beings. And when we are able to develop that sense of kindness of sentient beings and feel dear and close to our heart, then it allows our compassions, love to grow and extend towards them. And when we have that love and compassion towards them, then we have less problem. When there is a love and compassion to each other, even when we have differences, we can always find better way to solve the differences. We don't have to go through the pains that we go now due to the difference view in different areas in our life. And the pain that we go through is not just because of differences in our view in different area in our life. More than that is because of our negative feelings, emotions involved there. And so when we have sense of loving kindness, compassion to each other, then we have less of those negative feelings towards each other. And so therefore, we suffer less and we have less problem with each other. So in order to see and feel the kindness of other sentient beings, then we try to reflect, contemplate, think that all the happiness, goodness, success, whatever we enjoy in our life, whatever we have in our life, they come through the other sentient beings. Through the support and help and kindness of other sentient beings. If we think about our good health, and when we are not feeling well, that to be able to see the doctors, to go to the hospitals, clinic, to get us help through, it's because of them, because by ourselves, we don't know how to treat ourselves. We don't have all the skill to treat ourselves. Without their support, we will not be able to deal with the sickness. Without others, we wouldn't have the job that we have now. It is only through others that we get the job, and that pays our bills. If you go to the moon, try to find a job there, and then see whether it can. And so it is because there are other sentient beings who give our job and who help us to the business, the job to continue because there are customers. And so there are so many sentient beings who make that job happen, and so we continue to make our livings. All the food that we get, even though we buy and pay, but if there is no sentient beings who produce, then your money is just a paper. It's just a garbage. It becomes valuable because of others, and so that you can. So because of that, so if you see all kind of, and the clothes that we hear, the warmness when it's cold, because of we have a house, and because we can turn on the heaters, and when it's hot, that there is fan or air conditions, and all this because there are others who made those things, so we can use it and get the benefit. If there is no one who ever made air condition, we will not be able to use it, get the benefit. If those who didn't make heaters, electricity, like old times when people you just have to deal with it. But at the moment, we have so many facility, condition to make it more easier in our life, and it's because so many people contributed to make it those innovations, new innovations that we can enjoy and make our life more comfortable. And so when you try to reflect, contemplate that way, when we don't contemplate, reflect that way every day, we don't remember the kindness of others, contributions of others towards our happiness. We totally forget that. But when we take time, where does this come from? Whatever happiness, whatever comfort, whatever enjoyment that I'm having, how does it come? Where does it come? Then you begin to see so many sentient beings directly, indirectly involved there to make those things happen, so that we can have more, so that we can have a more comfortable. And from spiritual point of view, to achieve fully enlightened state, fully awakened state, without the practice of 6 perfections, such as the perfections of generosity, morality, patience, joy, effort, concentration, wisdom, one cannot achieve that fully enlightened state. It's not possible. In order to perfect those practices, you need other sentient beings. If there is no other sentient beings, you cannot practice generosity. You cannot perfect the practice of generosity. If there is no other sentient beings, you cannot perfect the practice of morality. If there is no other sentient beings, you cannot perfect the practice of patience. So to be able to practice and perfect those different practices, you rely on other sentient beings, depend on other sentient beings. And also the Bodhicitta mind itself, the compassion itself. Without the Bodhicitta mind, compassions, you cannot achieve fully enlightened state, your full potential. And also to practice the Bodhicitta mind and compassion, it depends on others. If you don't have other sentient beings, you don't get a compassion to the plant. Maybe it's possible, but not really. When we talk about compassion, we are talking about some living beings, suffering living beings. On the basis of that, that is how we cultivate loving compassion, empathy. So without other sentient beings, we cannot develop loving kindness, compassion. Through the other sentient beings, then we are able to develop loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind. Through that bodhicitta mind and compassion, then we are able to perfect the practice such as 6 perfections. Through those practices, then we are able to achieve highest potential, fully enlightened state. So therefore, all this comes through other sentient beings. Without them, we do not have all this practice. Without them, we will not be able to have the achieve that our full potential. Therefore, sentient beings are more precious than billions of dollars. The billions of dollars, no matter how much you have money, wealth, you cannot buy fully enlightened state. No matter how much money you have, you cannot buy the practice, the perfection of perfections of generosity, morality, patience, and so forth. No matter how much money you have, you cannot buy loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind. Even you have all this money, but if you don't have the sentient beings, we will not be able to practice and develop those inner qualities. From that point of view, sentient beings are more precious than wish-fulfilling jewels or the wealth. No matter how much wealth we have, we cannot even buy true happiness. You can, with the wealth, we might be able to create some facility where we can have some physical comfort. That's all it can. It cannot produce, we cannot buy inner peace, inner joy, happiness. But by depending on other sentient beings, through training our mind, we can develop true inner peace, true satisfaction, true calmness, happiness. So therefore, that is why the sentient beings, from that point of view, it become more precious. The more we reflect that on that area, the more we understand and feel their kindness and contributions in that way, then definitely we feel more and more close to them, more and more connected to them, more and more dear with them. And when we feel that, then there's feeling of warmness in our heart. Feeling of warmness, calmness. That itself is very healing. That itself can heal so many our mental, emotional pains. When you start to feel the kindness of others, support of others, contributions to others, even you are alone by yourself in your house or in the forest or everywhere, you always feel supported, care, love. You don't feel lonely. On the other hand, if you cannot feel that, the kindness of others, support of others, care of others, even you might be surrounded by thousands of people, you always feel lonely. That is one of the problems that we see in this world now. You live in one of the biggest cities, New York, millions of people. If you just go outside of your room, there's so many people here and there. But so many people feel lonely in that crowd. In those crowd, people started feeling so lonely because they cannot feel sense of that kindness, support, care, and love of someone. If you don't feel, then that is how you feel, kind of lonely. But once you started through that kind of reflection, contemplation, meditation, when you started to feel the love of others, support of others, care of others, then you don't feel as lonely. Even you are by yourself, not surrounded by anyone around you. And we don't feel that because we don't contemplate on those issues. It's not that there are not people who care about us. There's always someone, more than one person, who loves, care, support. There is always, but sometimes we cannot feel that because we don't really contemplate in the right way. Instead of contemplating on kindness of others, we contemplate on unkindness of them. Instead of contemplating on how much good help that they had done to us, we contemplate on how much help they have not done to us. For example, maybe our parent has done so many helpful things in our life. We can't count them if we have to keep each day how much they have done. And they might have done maybe something, they might not have been able to help us certain time in our life when we feel like we needed them. Very few moments. So we always think that one and feel like our whole life they have not been helpful. But those instants were only few. How instant where they have helped us is almost countless, but we don't reflect on that. And so therefore, our feeling is different. And so here the practice, actually also I saw one psychologist was saying that our mind is kind of biased in a sense that selective, that we remember the bad things and we don't remember the good things. We forget them easily. And so, because that's naturally how our mind is, so we have to consciously put effort to remember the good things. If we don't put effort consciously to remember them, we don't remember them by naturally. But the bad things we just remember without putting any effort. Yeah? And so then again, it is just same like the Buddhist meditations here. Meditating on the kindness of others, because even though they are kind and they have been kind, we forget. So we have to meditate, contemplate consciously. That is what meditation does. So that we become more balanced. Our mind is not balanced at the moment. Someone has told me tell you thousands times thank you, and then they forget to say you thank you one day? You forget the 1,000 times they told thank you, and you never forget the one day that they forgot to thank you, and that become a problem in your mind. Just a simple example. Isn't that strange? But that is how our mind works, isn't it? And so therefore, definitely our mind's not balanced, because it's become so selective of remembering only certain things, not the whole things. And so therefore, that's where we need to balance our mind more. And that means we have to contemplate on the other side as well. And so this kind of meditations helps us to balance that, and then started to remember and trying to remember and then recollect and remember and feel that. And when you feel that, then also you started to feel naturally close to them, dear to them, connected with them. And when we feel that way, dear, kind, connected, then it's much more easier to have a better, stable relationship, less problem, less conflict. So that is what the first verse, okay, training to feel and practice that way. Second, when in the company of others, so when we are in company with others whom our colleague, those who are junior to us, those who are senior to us, in terms of different, all different kind of peoples, sentient beings, I shall always consider myself the lowest of all, and from the depth of my heart hold others dear and supreme. That seems quite strong. And maybe even a little bit seems too extreme. But it's not easy. But if we can practice that, if we can really practice that, then we wouldn't have to go through so much pain problem that we have at the moment. At the moment, a lot of time we go through so much pain, and out of those pain, then it brings a conflict because our ego is hurt. A lot of time, our ego is hurt by someone's behavior. Someone's behavior and someone's actions, our ego get very hurt. And when our ego got hurt, we feel hurt. And when we feel hurt, then we suffer. And when we suffer and feel hurt, then our interactions with others is not a positive. And so then conflict starts. Conflict starts from that point. And so when you have conflict, of course, then it's not a good experience, joyful experience. It's unpleasant experience. in this painful experience. And our ego gets hurt because our ego feels I'm the supreme and they have to show me that. You feel they were disrespectful to me. You feel they were not respectful. Or you feel we have been, humiliated, abused, whatever due to their certain usage of their speech, words, sentence, and so forth. And because we feel I'm much more worthy than that. Yeah? So we feel that. And so because of that feeling, that's how we hurt. But if you started to train to look, you are the lords of all, even they treat you that, you wouldn't get hurt so much. It's like your teachers, okay, in whatever field, okay? Whether it's in sport, whether it's in education, wherever you are training, you are training with the respect that you know that these teachers know the subject better than yourself. That is why you go and take a training from them, coaching from them. So in your mind, you think they have better than myself in this area, in this field, okay? And so when they point your weakness, your problems, you wouldn't get so upset because you feel it's a way of growing. And because you know they know better than you in that area. So even when they point out, criticize some of the things you do, you don't get so hurt. You see it as something helpful. But if you feel you know better than that person in that area, if that person says something, you will really not like it. You will not really like it. So in terms of that person's opinion, suggestion, however you take it, criticism or suggestion, opinions, it depends on your state of mind. So when you feel that persons know better than yourself, in that when they point out those things, you feel it's a suggestions, opinions, advice, instructions to you to learn more, improve, and grow. You take it positive, isn't it? You take it positively. But on the other hand, that when you feel you know that in that subject, that area, better than that person, and that person give you the same advice, same opinion, same suggestions, same instructions, you wouldn't take it that way. You will take it as criticism or some other unhelpful. And you could get upset with that. And so when we see if we are able to see ourselves lost and others supreme and dear than ourselves, then similarly we might be able to see everything as instructions, advice, opinions, suggestions for our own growth, for our own development. And if you are able to see that, if you feel that, then those doesn't become problems, doesn't make you upset and angry and all these things. And so then our relations is better again. In every relationship, we have conflict because we cannot take some of their opinion, suggestions. we cannot listen properly. And a lot of time, we have this problem of listening properly when you feel you know better than that person. When you feel that that person knows better than you, you are more likely to listen well. And you are more likely to hear better. But once you feel you know better than that person, then even that person has an incredible good suggestion, opinions, instructions, whatever, your mind is not ready to listen. Therefore, you cannot hear properly. A lot of time, our communications is not so good because we are not great listeners, unable to listen well. And that unable to listen because it comes because lot of time it comes we feel we know the subject better than that person's. Once we have that mental attitude, then that is how we act. Another things, if we, I think I saw, okay. Someone has made a comment, if I could not move much. I think they were watching, I guess, live or whatever, so they saw me quite moving all the times. But this is kind of what you call hard to, it is a habit. When we were young, we try to memorize, and so when you memorize, somehow it keep you, and also sometimes I guess it keep you more awake or something, and so you are so used to that now. I keep on moving, so I suddenly remember. I noticed I was moving a lot, and remember that. And also, when we have this competitiveness, the mind of competitiveness, that is where, again, a lot of people in this world suffer so much because of that attitude. Always feeling I have to do better than others. Always competing with someone else. And so even you are better than many others, still there will be someone better than you, and so you always feel you are not good enough. Even you are second, third, which means you are better than thousands of people. If in certain competitions, millions of people, but still you feel you are not good enough because you are not the first. Isn't it? It's same thing you see, sometimes. Even you are making a profit, which you should be happy and support, grateful, but because you are not making as more profit as someone else, you are not so happy. You see some people complaining because they are not making as same profit as someone else is making. Even though they are making profit, they compare with someone who is doing better, and then they feel not happy. And I think that is same in every different areas and field in our life. And that is how we make our life unhappy. We create our unhappiness by our mind in that way. On the other hand, if you don't have that attitude of competing with others all the time, but as long as you are improving, increasing in your own, doing better than last, little better than that, then you don't have to go through all this unhappiness. And when we have that competitiveness, one, definitely there is unhappiness constantly in that mind. And secondly, your competitor become almost like your enemy. You started to hate them because you feel they have taken away your success. And so therefore, but when we train, if we are able to see ourselves lower than others, you have less competitiveness sense of mind with them. And then you have less, when you have less competitive attitude in that way, you suffer less. You suffer less. And I think one of the big problem now in the world is that competitiveness everywhere, in every field. That is driving people nuts. Trying to keep up that competition all the time. So one way of looking at it is when we say, when you try to see yourself lost and others supreme, it doesn't mean that you are kind of seeing that you are worthless, that you are good for nothing, incompetitive. It doesn't mean that, okay? While you feel confident in yourself, okay? You feel very confident in yourself and very confident in yourself in whatever, every field. At the same time, you can see they are even better than me. I'm good, but they are even better than them. It's similar like how you look the half glass of water. That theory, you can see there is half, or you can see it's not full. It's the same, but it's different way of looking. In same, one way is I'm the worst, or other way is doing I'm good, but others are even better than me. In certain things, you are totally confident in your own ability, isn't it? But at the same time, you also see someone is better than you in that, and you respect that person for that. And so while you have confidence in yourself, in your ability and your own qualities, but at the same time you train to see others have even more quality, more confidence, more ability, and with that seeing, you don't lose confidence in yourself, but you have respect for others. And when you have that kind of respect for others, by seeing that, and then I think there's huge difference. In our interaction with others, when you try to interact with someone, see the differences when you interact with someone with whom you have great respect and someone you have no respect at all, the way we communicate with them. With that two different attitudes. With one attitude, you have great respect. And with one attitude, you have totally no respect or disrespect with that. And maybe even you are trying to communicate same issue, the way you communicate will be totally different. And due to the way we communicate, our interaction will be different. I think a lot of the problem that we see in the world on a bigger picture, from country to countries, from party to parties, or individually in our everyday life, when there is more respect, when there is more trust with each other, we are able to find better solutions. Our communication is more open, more transparency. And when there is mutual respect to each other, we always have better skillful means, better way of communicating, better way of finding. But when there is disrespect to each other, when there is distrust to each other, then you cannot start the conversation fully. And then very difficult to find solutions. Very difficult to find the solutions when there is such a disrespect. And so when you see the others are more supreme and no better, then you have respect, and because of respect, then definitely our communication will be better, and so there is less misunderstanding, miscommunications, and so we don't have to suffer and engage into a conflict due to misunderstanding and miscommunications, because a lot of time that is it is. And at least when we think we are, especially when we are very proudful, when we started to become very proudful and arrogant, when we become too proud in a negative way and too arrogant, then again there is a danger of being harm done to yourself and harm done to others. And so in those times we have to especially in those times we have to, when you are in that sense of pride and arrogance, you are almost like floating in the air. You are not being grounded to the earth. And so one method, the way to bring ourselves be grounded in the earth, is reflecting on our own shortcomings, our own weakness, our own faults. Because we become too arrogant, because in that moment we cannot see our own fault, our own shortcomings, our own weakness. But once we try to contemplate and see, then it helps us to be more grounded, less arrogant. And we try to reflect the good qualities of others in order to develop that respect and see them, and so that we don't treat them with the more you see good qualities in others, the more respect you have, and the less arrogant you become towards them, the less you treat them unkind way, with anger and so forth, and thereby it brings less harm. Less harm is done to yourself and to others. And so that is practicing to hold others dear and supreme in that way. Then the third, vigilant, the moment a delusion appears in my mind, endangering myself and others, I shall confront and avert it without delay. And so even we want to be a better compassion, wise, but we are not being able to act compassion wisely all the time. Even though we have that wish to be able to act compassion way and wisely all the time, but at the moment we are unable to act compassion and wisely all the time. Why? Because of those delusions. Because of those delusions, even we want to act compassion, we are unable to act compassion way. Even we want to act wisely all the time, but we are unable to act wisely all the time because of those delusions. We want to be happy all the time, but we are not happy all the time. Why? Because of those delusions. We don't want to suffer, but we still suffer. Why? Because of those delusions. We don't want to harm yourself and harm others, but we continue to harm ourselves and others time to time. Why? Because of the delusions. We don't want to make any mistake, but we continue to make mistake again and again. Why? Because of the delusions. So you can see those delusions are the worst enemy that endangers and harm yourself and others. And those delusions harm you all the time, all the time. External enemy, they might harm you once a while, but not all the time. Not all the time. But the delusions, they harm you all the time. They harm you now, they harm you in the also long term. So with that understanding, recognizing that, how destructive, how harmful those delusions are, and recognizing that is the worst enemy, much more worse than the external enemy. With that recognition, then we try to apply antidote and confront them as soon as possible, without delaying. Because the more we give space for that delusions, the more harm is done. The quicker we are able to kind of eradicate, the better is for oneself and others. So vigilantly means all the time being very mindful and alert, always watching our thoughts, our speech, our actions, being very mindful and alert. And the moment you notice through that alertness and that mindfulness, the moment you notice one of those afflictive emotions, one of those delusions arising, immediately try to apply antidote, whatever antidote that whatever practice and antidote that you have access to, and apply that, and try to apply that immediately without delaying, and try to eliminate, confront it as soon as possible. Many of the masters in the past, it is said they used to have sometimes two stones, one black color, black, one white, and they always watch their mind, thoughts, and when they have one negative thoughts, they put one of those black stone. When they have positive thoughts, they wish to have one white stones. At the very beginning, it's all black. Just few white ones. But they train and watch their mind all the time, continue to. And when they have negative thoughts, they try to change it, transform it, try to apply the antidotes. And over the time, then slowly, the white started to increase. Slowly, the black started to decrease. Slowly, it become equal. Slowly, then the white become more than the black ones. So if we train and put effort, not only they are able to do it, we will be also able to do it. And so that was one of the methods then for to kind of do that. They use that kind of method. Applying antidote immediately is very crucial, as it said here. There is a quite nice stories which kind of, I like that story very much. Okay, there is a one Katamba Geshe, known as Geshe Thubten, and it is said that at the very beginning of his life, his early life, he was a kind of thief, robber, bandit, and quite well known. And then later, he became a monk. He entered the Dharma, and he became a monk. And one of the stories is that one time he was invited by one family for a lunch, and also requesting the prayers. And so while he was in the house doing the prayers, and families was preparing the lunch and outside, and so then he saw many packs of tea, dry tea leaves. That is what they used to make tea in Tibet in the old time. Is dry, and you break it and then you boil it. And so he saw a lot of that, and immediately he started to, because he's so habit of stealing and robber in his life, immediately without thinking, his hand just went. In moment he, with his mindfulness, he recognized that I'm stealing. In the moment he realized that, so there was a tea bag, it's a bag full of those tea, and his hand was in that bag. And then he hold one hand like that and scream, "There is a thief, there is a thief." And the owner came and said, "Where is the thief? I don't see any thief." Here, this is the thief, here. And that was how he did. Immediately with his mindfulness, he recognized he was doing something not healthy, something not positive. Immediately he tried to apply. It needs encourage for courage, isn't it, to be able to do that kind of applying that. But he was, and another time, in the pujas, in the prayers, they were serving a yogurt lunch. For a lunch, they were serving yogurt for all the monks. And because he was a new monk, so he was in the last of the row. So the row started with the seniority. And because he was the new monk, he was very last row. And when they were serving, they served from the first row. And he saw them that the monks were serving a lot. He started to get worried. By the time it come to his turn, there might not be enough. And I think we have that very, not exactly the same, but I think similarity a lot of time. Unnecessary worries, isn't it? Lot of unnecessary worries. And he also had this unnecessary worry. Even though there was enough for everyone, but in his mind he started to get worrying that then by the time that he will not, and of course there was enough for everyone. And so when they came to his turn and he put his bowl upside down, and he said, "I've already eaten before." So he is saying the moment he started worrying, that's when he started eating. So immediately he put upside down the bowl and he said, "I already ate." And so he applied that kind of method, with applying antidote. Immediately he paid with that alertness and mindfulness. And even because of his previous professional, he was so habitual to that, so it was even more challenging for them than us. Because instantly he always go in that. But he applies his mindfulness, alertness all the time, and every time he noticed that, he tried to apply whatever antidote. And then he said one time, that there's no other job for me than God at the door of my mind with the two weapons, the weapons of mindfulness and alertness. I have no other job than watch and guard my mind with that two weapons. And the moment the delusions is strong, he said, I will be even more, watch it more, even more alert and more intensity. When the delusion relax, I will also relax a little bit. When the delusion arises, he said he will not relax, but become more active and more interested with that watching. And that is how he apply, and then eventually he become one of very inspiring. He make a huge progress, and he become one of very inspiring figure and teachers for a lot of coming generations and his time. And so I think that is very important for us to pay attention, being very on the mindful and alertness. That's very important key. One of the example I give, and which I like, is a lot of time we are not mindful, okay? And so the delusions has already arises and intensify, and then too strong, and then we blow up, okay? And mess up everything. We only recognize only after we mess up everything. And a lot of time it's too late because we have messed up everything. And a lot of time once we mess up, it's hard to, once we are broken, it's hard to join again in a lot of situations. Someone has been hurt, and then even you try to apologize, even you try to do everything, it's hard for them to let it go. And then it's very hard to rebuild, reconnect that. And so, for example, in some cases, so that is because we are not mindful enough. But if we are mindful, if we have been able to mindful, and if we were aware that I'm upset, I'm angry, and that I shouldn't, then maybe even you are angry, maybe you might be able to stop your actions, your speech, and therefore you don't kind of, even the anger is there, but you don't really kind of mess up everything. But a lot of time we are not even aware that you are angry when you are in angry. And sometimes when we notice we are in that angry state, just an example of angry, any of the delusions, and then you try to apply whatever different technique, or meditation, it doesn't work, isn't it? Anger doesn't seem to subside. Even you try all these different analysis, all these things, still the burning of anger is still there. Sometimes we wonder whether this meditation works or not. With this particular analysis, this particular meditation, I am supposed to reduce the anger, but it doesn't seem to be happening. Even you are doing those analysis, those meditation, still your anger is still there, strongly, boiling. And we might even start to think, maybe this meditation doesn't work. It's not effective. And it is not effective, not because it's the not right method or is the wrong method, but because delusion is too strong, your practice is too weak. And the same method will have been effective if you have recognized your anger much more earlier when it's not so strong. When it is not so strong, if you have recognized or aware much more early stages when it's weak, then you apply same antidote, same method, same reflection, it will help. It can subside and you can But at this point, the anger has reached a point, it's too intense, and your practice is very weak. So I give you an example. For example, the water has this, has the energy forces to reduce the heat, okay, or to extinguish fire. But if the fire is too big and if the water is too little, it will not be able to extinguish it. Sometimes it might even increase it. But if you have recognized the fire when it was small, same level of water can extinguish that. So the sooner you are able to, for example, because of the candle, then it started to wind and it blow, and then it started to have some small fire here, with this starting with vapor, for example. If you recognize at the very beginning, if you see the fire with this flower, with this paper, you might just need 1 cup of glass to extinguish that fire. So you are not aware of that, not mindful and aware of that, then the table is already on the fire. 1 glass of water will not extinguish it. Maybe you need 1 bucket of water to extinguish that fire. So your practice has to be more and more stronger. And then you don't even aware when the table is on the fire and the big house is in the fire, 1 bucket of water is not being able to extinguish it. You need many gallons to fight it. And so, similarly, it's same thing. As the level of your delusions increase, intensify, your level of practice, meditation has to be also stronger and stronger. But if our level of practice in every day is not so strong, so you are trying to fight with a big fire with 1 glass of water. But with the mindfulness, if you are aware at the very beginning stages, then you can handle that. And if we are mindful is strong, awareness, our alertness and mindfulness is strong, maybe sometime you can even be aware. Even before the fire starts, you can see the conditions, the wind blowings and then things, and then you are aware that if you have to watch it and protect it. So fire doesn't have to even start to begin with. You can stop from starting it if you are aware that situations, conditions, there is a building up for the fire to start. Same way, all those different delusions arises due to coming together of many conditions. And if you are mindful enough, you might be even aware those conditions are coming together even before the delusion arises. And if we can stop some of those conditions coming together, then the delusion doesn't have to start to begin with from the very beginning. The delusion doesn't have to even arise. You can even stop the delusion from arising, even from the subtle level, when you stop the conditions which give rise to those. And the stronger mindfulness, alertness you have, the more you are able to be aware of those stages. And so therefore, those tools are very important tools. Vigilant or alertness and mindfulness in dealing and in battle with the delusions. Then 4, Whenever I see beings who are wicked in nature and overwhelmed by violent negative action and suffering, I shall hold such rare ones dear as if I found a precious treasure. So, whenever we see people who seems very violent, people who seems very unkind, cruel, mean, our normal natural response would be kind of negative sense of anger towards those peoples or sentient beings, especially I think people for us. And so, but when we get angry and upset due to their such nature or due to their such unkind behavior and actions, when we get upset and angry, it doesn't change that person's behavior, it doesn't change that person's nature, that doesn't change that person's actions, but it disturbs us. It disturbs our mind. It disturbs our mind. It disturbs us. Whatever calm peace we have, it takes away that. If by our getting angry and upset, if it changed that person's nature, violent nature, unkind nature, and their behavior or action that come out of that nature, if it changes, then maybe there is some point for us, even I'm disturbed, but it is changing. If it changes, then there is, but it doesn't change that by itself, by getting angry itself. Doesn't change. Doesn't change, but what effect is ourself. Our mind is disturbed, agitated, and so therefore we make more mistake, more unhappy. We suffer ourselves. So there's no point in getting angry, since we cannot change that person's behavior, actions, and nature. On top of that, then we encounter so much suffering and pain. So what is the point of that? What is the usage of that? So there is no usefulness in that. And so therefore, not getting upset and angry, how can we remain, our mind not being disturbed, agitated by such persons' nature and behavior and actions? And so there are many different ways of doing that to keep our mind more calm and undisturbed. One way of doing is seeing that person is acting in that way because they are totally deluded. Totally deluded. That means they are mentally sick. Mentally sick. mentally sick and mentally disturbed. And when you understand someone is mentally sick and disturbed, even you don't agree with even their behavior and action is harmful at the same time, and we can try to stop such harmful action and behavior, but without getting so upset and angry, but with understanding where it comes from. Where it comes from. As I've mentioned before, I think maybe on Saturday, in a hospital, some people who are mentally, from a clinical point of view, mentally disturbed. And when the families, doctors, nurse, when they try to help, instead of appreciating, thanking, sometimes they will try to harm the people who are trying to help them. They will try to harm the nurse, the doctors, their own families, because they are mentally disturbed. They don't know what they are doing. They are not even aware what they are doing. They are not aware they are harming someone. So when the doctors, the families, the nurse understand that, they don't get so upset and angry with that person. Instead, maybe they get compassion for that person, because they can see how much pain that he or she is going through. But that doesn't mean they will not stop that person from harming themselves or others. They will try to use all their skills, all their means to stop that person from harming, whether it's doctor, it's someone, nurse, or some other patients, anyone. They will try all that, but not out of anger, but out of compassion, understanding that person, why he or she is acting that way. And so when you understand that, then you don't get angry with that person, isn't it? Even when you see their actions is harmful. So same thing. Even though maybe clinically, maybe those people might not have been maybe not diagnosed as a mentally ill. Maybe some of them are medically also sick. Maybe we don't just know. But whether it's clinically diagnosed as sick or not, but definitely mentally sick when they are acting that way. As I mentioned, nobody who is in a good sense of mind will do anything like harmful things. When someone's mind is not good sense, when the mind is disturbed in some way due to one of those delusions, anger, hatred, ignorance, greediness, whatever those sense of arrogant. So all this, one of those delusions arises and overwhelm that person's, and then that person becomes someone else. He or she is no more himself or herself. It's almost like being possessed by something else. It's like someone, like being possessed by spirit or something else. He or she is no more the normal person in that moment. In that moment, that person is totally sick. Totally sick. So when we understand that, then we don't have to get so upset and angry. But doesn't mean we have to agree with their harmful actions. There's where we have to make differentiations. And so when you don't get upset and angry in that way, then you don't suffer. Your mind is not disturbed, agitated. You don't suffer. and you are able to use your mind better, more you are able to use your more reasoning, common sense, wisdom to make right decision. What is the best way to stop that such harmful action, and so on. So it gives you more better tools to stop that harmful actions, but without getting angry and upset. So also reflect and contemplating how that person's behavior, unkind, harmful actions and behavior is going to bring so much pain and suffering to him and his family now and in the futures, creating so much negative karma. The consequences of such negative karma is incredible. It's incredible. So not only they are sick and suffering now, but due to that actions, they are creating so much negative karma. And as a consequences, they are going to suffer so much in the future. And even immediately, such behavior and actions already started to bring destruction in their own life, pain in their own life already. But a lot of time they don't see it because their mind is totally sick. Even though their actions is harming themselves, but they cannot see that. They have been blinded by those delusions. They cannot see their actions not only harming others, their actions is harming their families, their children, and themselves. So it is someone who is totally intoxicated, therefore they can't see what's right, wrong. They cannot see what is their actions is harming others, action harming themselves. So when you understand that, then I think it helps us to not be so agitated towards them. And so from that perspective, then when we think that way, and if we utilize that situation to think that way, and instead of anger, we turn it around to develop love and compassion for such people, then those people are like a treasure because it's very precious. It allows us to develop all these inner qualities. Precious, like a treasure. A treasure, if you find a mining and treasure, is very precious. Same way, this is like a treasure, precious in a sense that if we can use the situation in the right, correct way, utilize it, then it can help us to develop loving kindness, compassion instead of anger and hatred. Giving us the opportunity to practice and cultivate loving kindness and compassion. So, Then verse number 5, when out of envy others mistreat me, abuse, insult, or like, I shall accept defeat and offer victory to others. Even more challenging. So again, of course, it's just giving one of the example when it's out of envy. It could be out of any of the delusions, out of ignorance, out of anger, out of jealousy, envy, or whatever, when someone mistreat us, abuse, criticize, act in harmful ways to us, of course, again, our normal ordinary response with the anger. But again, as we talk, that anger doesn't help the situations, to solve the situations. It only makes the situation much more worse and bigger. And so, how can we keep our mind more peaceful and calm and not to get disturbed is very crucial. So when we say take the defeat and give the victory to others, it doesn't mean that we allow them to continue to abuse, continue to mistreat, continue to harm, okay? It doesn't mean that. If there is any way that we can stop them from mistreating, abusing, and harming either yourself or others, we try everything. Because not only harm others in yours, it also harm themselves with such actions. But the key is how to stop without getting angry and upset. That is the oldest key, all this teaching. The key is that. How can we stop their such harmful actions without getting angry and upset? And again, it's training of the mind, looking things differently. And one way of looking at that is taking the defeat in a sense that you are taking the responsibility from karmic point of view, for example. Especially when it happens to yourself. Of course, if it can be stopped, we stop. But something which has already been inflated, okay? Harm is already been done. We can't change that part. Harm which has already been done, we can't change that part. We can stop future harm. We can stop them from creating more harms. Be done. But whatever harm which has already been done in the past, that cannot be changed. But if we hold totally and blame for them and not being able to let go of blaming them from the harm already been done in the past, then we cannot let it go. Then we have angry, upset, hatred, resentment, all these negative feelings. Instead, if we begin to see, well, that must have, it is because of ripening of my own karma, having created similar harm done to them in the past. So that karma is returning back to us, or karmic result is returning back to us. And that person's act and that person is only one small part of that conditions for that experience, for us to experience that result. If it wasn't, as I mentioned before, I think on Saturday, if we don't have the karmic cause, the internal cause, the fundamental cause, karmic, even they try to do something harmful, they will not be able to harm us. They will not be able to harm us. Even they try to harm us, they will not be able to harm us. But when we have that karmic seed ripening, and then when they do engage, then we receive the harm. So it's not just person's actions why we receive the harm, but it is also because of karma as well. And so when you take that responsibility, then you don't blame everything to that person. And when you don't blame everything to that person, it's easy to let it go and not to get so upset and angry for that person. And when you are able to do that, then you are healing yourself. You are stopping more pain in yourself, and also the situations, the problem to get out of control. So that is what it means by taking defeat on others. One way of looking at these verses is taking the responsibility by ourselves from the karmic point of view. And I believe this way of looking and contemplating has helped a lot of Tibetan practitioners. Even though they have gone through a lot of hardship, many of them prison and torture for no other reason than they were practicing the Dharma. No other reason than they were teaching Dharma to others. But a lot of them were able to kind of not have any resentment and anger and hatred, but able to let it go. And one of the things that helped them is to see is their own karma. To be able to see and accept that is their karma. It helped them to kind of let go of all these bad feelings. So they didn't have to suffer so much. They had to suffer physically, but they didn't have to suffer mentally. But if they have not been able to let it go, and if there is so much anger and hatred and resentment, not only they suffer physically, they suffer mentally as well. And so therefore, things that has already happened, which we cannot change, is much more better if we can let it go. The sooner, better. And a lot of time, we hold on that strongly. Something which happened in the past, which cannot be changed, but still we hold on that very strongly. And because of that, then we go through so much those negative emotions and suffer so much. And we don't have to suffer that way. We don't have to suffer that. And so we make the suffering, we multiply the suffering more by not letting it go. And so here is that when saying that instead of blaming on them, taking the responsibility ourselves. When someone whom I have benefited, in whom I have great hope, give me a terrible harm, I shall regard that person as my holy guru. Again, it is easier for us not to be so resentful for someone we have had a conflict for a long time. Yeah? What can you expect from someone you have conflict? But then someone you have benefited so much, helped so much, done so much, and then they turn against you, and then they started to engage in the harmful actions, it's much more harder to let it go. It's much more painful. It's much more hurtful. It's much more challenging and difficult to have loving kindness, compassion, or to let go of anger to such people, because that's not the response you expect for your kindness, for your help, for your support. And so, but again, same thing. If you cannot let it go, then who suffer most? You suffer most. And so again, how can we learn and let go so that we don't suffer so much, even in those situations, even though it's not easy? And one way of looking at this is like seeing them as a very precious, your teacher's guru. And so here is, I normally give this example because I in my mind it is helpful. In schools, when we are learning, a lot of time there is two teachers, theoretical teachers and practical teachers. Okay? Theoretical teachers help you in the classroom how to plant or how to cook, how much you need and how much you need to cook, temperature and everything. That is, then the practical teachers actually take you in the farm and make you grow, or take you in the kitchen and make you cook. That is where you really learn to be perfect in cooking, good cook or farmers, when you really started doing in the field itself, practically. Yeah? Same way, our teachers, gurus, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas are more like theoretical teachers. They teach us how to practice patience, give us all the instructions. Then this person is the practical teacher, taking you to the kitchens, to the farm, and now making you do it. And that is only through that you can perfect the practice of patience. If you are never given that practical, taking you that practical, you can never perfect the practice of perfections. So from that point of view, that person really is a greatest teacher in practicing patience. Everyone can. Practicing patience is not difficult if no one creates problems. We all are good at that. We don't need to practice. If no one harm us, no one say something which we don't like, everyone say everything we like, do everything we want, of course we will be very good at practice of patience. But there's no real practice of patience. We are never tested. We are never given opportunity. It is in those opportunities when you provide it, if you can handle it, then that is where. And so therefore, for a true practitioner who really want to perfect, such as practice of patience and other bodhisattva practice, they appreciate such situation and the people who give us such opportunity incredibly precious. And therefore, when you see that, then instead of getting angry, you appreciate them. their actions for giving you the opportunity to practice, giving you the opportunity to grow, make progress. And when you are able to do that, then nothing bothers you. Doesn't mean you do become a kind of unconcerned and indifference, but it just means nothing agitate your mind, disturb your mind. And when someone's behavior or action doesn't disturb and agitate you anymore, then you find peace all the time. Peace all the time. Calmness in your life all the time. And then verse number 7. In short, both directly and indirectly do I offer every happiness and benefit to all my mothers, sentient beings. I shall secretly take upon myself all their harmful action and suffering. So this one is kind of summaries of the 6th verse. So it is saying, in short, we try to help and benefit others directly, whatever we can, if we can. And those certain things which you cannot help directly, we try to help them indirectly in terms of dedicating our virtues, sending our wishes, prayers, intentions. And but those which we can really help directly, we try to help them. Relieve their suffering, their pain, and increase their happiness. And here, in secretly taking on their suffering, the cause of suffering is the practice of tonglen, taking and giving in order to improve your loving kindness and compassion. So it is a certain practice that you visualize taking the suffering of all others on yourself and giving all your goodness, virtues, happiness to others. And through certain particular visualization, together with your breathing in and breathing out, and it is to increase and improve your loving kindness and compassion. So tonglen is a very important practice. And then the 8th, undefiled by the stench of superstitious or worldly concerns, may I, by perceiving all phenomena as illusory, be released from the bondage of attachment. So, while you are trying to help and benefit others, sometimes our actions of helping and benefiting can be defiled by one of those 8 worldly concerns. That one side of our mind, one corner of our mind, can still have some selfish motivation or some expectations. Even when trying to help and benefit, one side of one corner of mind, you are still expecting them something from them. And so when we try to do that, then the practice does not become as pure as it can be. It doesn't become as powerful bodhisattva practice as it can be. And so therefore, in order to make our practice of being helping and being supporting, helping, benefiting others to be more powerful, more bodhisattva practice, more compassion, more pure, then we try to let go of any of those 8 worldly concerns and being attached to any expectations and conditions. And so we do that by seeing everything, all 8 worldly concerns and everything as like an illusory, as we explained yesterday. So, so when you see the wealth, the reputation, the praise, the happiness, everything, instead of seeing them as so real and so it's so real, but you try to see them as more like an illusion, more like a dream. And when you see less real and more like an illusion dream, then you have less attachment towards them, less clinging, grasping towards them. And so thereby to be able to let go of those clinging, grasping attachments. And so that is, and thereby making our practice very powerful and effective. So with that, I think we'll stop. If there is question, I can take one or two, if there is. Yes, please.
So in verse 2, where we want to hold others as supreme, there are some people who are, their problem is they're very arrogant. And acting in a way that treats them as supreme just contributes to their delusion.
So maybe we can add a little bit more delusion to that. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. No. Here it is not about saying, oh, you are great and this and that, or what you are doing is great. It is about in our mind. Okay? So here in our mind, even that person's arrogant, or he or she has their own shortcomings, weakness, faults, but we try to emphasize on the good quality of them. They also have good qualities. Even though they have bad qualities, also just like they also have good qualities, positive qualities. And certain qualities which we don't possess, they possess. Yeah? We all are unique in different ways. And we all have unique qualities. And they have their own positive, unique quality which we don't possess. And that can be different. Arrogant might not be one of those good qualities, but they have many other good qualities. And by focusing on those good qualities, then we try to develop sense of them superior, at least from that respect. Okay? For example, someone is much better, they have very different creative or different things, and they are better than one. So you think from that perspective, he or she is much more better than ourselves. And so then focusing that and to hold that supreme. But it doesn't mean that we go and say, oh, what you are doing is great, and that it is not that. It's in our mind. When we see their good qualities, we develop more respect for them. If we don't see their good quality, if we only think of their bad qualities, then we lose respect for them. And if we don't have respect for them, then we treat them differently. And our interactions is different. And also we suffer. Yeah. Okay? So then we do the dedications. So due to all the virtues that we have created, may the Dharma flourish and benefit countless sentient beings. May His own Dalai Lama, Kyabje Lama Sopa Rinpoche, all the teachers who share those messages of loving kindness, compassion, may they have a long, healthy life. May all the spiritual center, Dharma centers, especially here, the ocean of compassion, may it grow, expand, and be beneficial to so many sentient beings. And may all the staff of the center, all the benefactors, sponsors, all the people who participate in different programs, and all their families and all sentient beings have long, healthy life, prosperity, success, happy and meaningful life. May that all the negativities, violence, and natural disasters, and anger and hatred, and all different negative energies, that's divisions and so forth, that's going in the world, may they all be healed. And may each of us find more peace, harmony, and happiness. And only think of helping and supporting each other. May each and every sentient being be able to actualize and fully develop loving kindness, compassion, and wisdom, realizing the emptiness. Those who have already actualized not diminish but increase more and more. And may we be able to follow the perfect example by all the set by all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in engaging our practice and helping benefiting others just like themselves. And may our prayer and dedication be same as the incredible prayer and dedication made by all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Due to this time of merit, which empty from its own side, may I, which empty from its own side, actualize fully enlightened state, which empty from its own side, for the benefit and welfare of all mother sentient beings, which empty from its own side. Gewa di nyo do da lama sangye do kyo ne do wa chi kya ma le pa de sa la gui ba sho chang jo sem cho ren bo che ma ke pa na ke jo che ke wa nyam ba me ba yang kong le kong tu pe wa sho kang re ra we ko re shin gam de pen dang de wa ma le jung we ne che re sen wa ten zen kya so ye sha pe si de pa tu ten jo tu zu chang xin cham gun kya we ten zen jong pe we kun su to po ra zu cho song ku we le ma tu tu ba da so du je gun du sha ten. Thank you very much. Thank you.